The bus dropped me off at the edge of the old forest, where the dirt road forked into two paths, one leading toward town, the other toward the place everyone pretended didn't exist, the gallows field. The place where they burned her, the witch, my grandmother. At least, that was what they always whispered. The wind howled low through the trees, making them groan like wounded animals. The moon was thin and sharp, like a blade hung above the world. My suitcase wheels rattled across the broken pathway, and every sound felt like it echoed too loudly, like something was listening. I hadn't been back in 13 years, not since the night of the fire, when I was dragged screaming from the burning pyre, fighting to reach the woman everyone said was the devil. I was 6 years old. All I remember is her voice, hoarse and broken through the flames. Elias, never let them bury the truth. And then the fire swallowed everything. Everyone told me she was insane, a monster, a murderer, a witch who cursed the village. I spent years trying to forget, but last week I received a letter. No return address, no signature, just 4 handwritten words. Come home. She waits. The ink smelled like smoke. I thought it had to be a prank until I turned the paper over and saw the burned fingerprint pressed into it. A blackened mark I recognized instantly, the same pattern burned into my shoulder on the night she died. A brand the doctors said was impossible. My grandmother's mark. It pulsed beneath my skin now, burning like fresh iron. I gripped my shoulder and forced myself forward. Ashthorne Village was exactly as I remembered. Silent, cold, rotting. Houses leaned like they were too tired to stand. The broken church bell hung crooked, never rung since the night of the pyre. Every window was shut, curtains drawn tight as though afraid to look outside. Afraid of me. Because to them, I was not just the grandson of the witch. I was the boy who survived the fire, the curse bearer, the unwanted. As I walked through the central square, old faces peered at me through cracks in their doors, eyes wide, terrified, full of hatred. No one spoke, no one moved, until a voice cut through the silence. You never should have come back. I spun around. An old woman stood behind me, hunched, wrapped in black shawls. Her eyes were pale and cloudy, yet burning with fear. Leave before it begins again, she hissed, before she wakes fully. My blood chilled. Who wakes? She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she reached toward me. The burning witch, she whispered, your grandmother. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, the world flashed white. When the light vanished, the old woman was gone, as if she had never existed. Then the church bell rang. 3 slow, echoing tolls. Boom! 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 The sound shuddered through every building, rattling windows, shaking the ground beneath my feet. The bell hadn't rung in 13 years. Something had awakened it. Something had awakened. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying the smell of burning wood and flesh. Heat rolled through the air like a furnace breathing. My chest tightened. And then I heard it, a scream, not of pain, of rage, a voice I knew too well, tearing through the village like a blade through skin. Elias, you came back! The sky erupted into flame, an enormous column of fire spiraling upward from the forest where the pyre once stood, lighting the darkness with hellish red light. The fire twisted and shaped itself into a face, gaunt, hollow-eyed, twisted by torment. My grandmother, the burning witch. Her burning hands reached toward me, stretching across the sky. The ground beneath me shook violently, splitting open in jagged cracks. Ash swirled around me like snow. My ears rang with the sound of screaming that seemed to rise from the earth itself. My legs locked in terror. I couldn't run. I couldn't breathe. And then something grabbed my arm, cold, desperate fingers clamping onto my skin. I spun around, expecting another villager. Instead, I saw her. A girl about my age, face streaked with soot and tears, clothes torn like she had crawled through hell. Her eyes were wild with fear, glowing faintly orange in the firelight. She whispered, barely bubble above the roaring flames. If you want to live, Elias, you have to come with me. Right now. She will kill you first. I stared at her, stunned. Who are you? Her grip tightened. I'm the reason you were called back. Before I could speak again, she pulled me into the darkness, just as the flaming face above us screamed my name. Branches whipped against my face as we ran through the narrow forest path, the girl practically dragging me behind her. The ground was slick with mud, and smoke rained ashes down like black snow. Every breath burned like I was inhaling fire. The sky behind us glowed violently, blood-red flames clawing upward. I could still hear her, the witch, screaming my name. Not like someone calling for help, like someone hunting. Where are we going? I gasped, stumbling over a tree root. To the old mill, the girl said without turning back. It's the only place she can't reach. Not yet. Why is she coming for me? My voice cracked. She was my grandmother. She was murdered, the girl cut in sharply, and she wants revenge. But before she burns the village to the ground, she wants you. My stomach turned. My pulse hammered in my ears. I don't even know who you are. We broke through the tree line and into a clearing where the shape of an old wooden mill hunched like a dying animal. Its water wheel lay broken and half sunken in the stagnant river. Boarded windows, collapsed roof, everything covered in moss and rotting vines. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. The girl kicked open the warped door and shoved me inside. I stumbled into darkness, coughing from the smoke. She slammed the door shut and dropped a thick wooden beam across it as a barricade. Only then did she finally turn to face me. Her eyes, deep amber, glowing faintly even in the dark, felt like they looked straight through me. Her hair was long and tangled, black streaked with soot. She wasn't just frightened. She looked like someone who had been running for years. My name is Seraphine, she said, voice low and steady now that we were inside. And I'm here because I'm the only one left who knows the truth about what really happened the night they burned your grandmother. I stared at her, stunned. What truth? She hesitated, biting her lip as if weighing whether she could trust me. Finally, she whispered, your grandmother wasn't a witch. My heart stopped. What? She wasn't a monster. She wasn't evil. She wasn't the one who cursed this village. She was trying to protect it. I shook my head. No, I saw it. I saw her tied to the stake. I saw the flames. I heard the villagers screaming that she was a witch, that she killed people, They lied, Seraphine snapped, her voice rising in fury. They lied to save themselves. The village elders made a pact with something ancient, something that demanded blood. And when they needed someone to sacrifice, they chose her. My knees felt weak. A pact? Seraphine nodded slowly, her gaze darkening. Centuries before either of us was born, Ashthorn was dying. Famine, plague, war. The villagers prayed, begged for salvation. Something answered, something from below. It promised prosperity and protection, but only if they offered a life every generation. I swallowed hard, my throat closing. They burned her to keep the creature asleep, but she was powerful enough to resist. She trapped it instead, binding it with her own life. And when she died, the monster was sealed inside the pyre grounds. The air grew colder. And now, I whispered. Seraphine's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. Now the seal is breaking, and the only thing strong enough to contain it again is you. I backed away, shaking my head. No, I'm not a witch. I'm not anything. Seraphine stepped closer and lifted her hand toward my shoulder. I flinched, but she gently brushed her fingers across the scar I'd had since childhood. The burned fingerprint embedded into my skin. The mark flared beneath her touch, burning like molten iron. I gasped and fell to my knees, clutching my shoulder. Seraphine knelt in front of me, gripping my face so I had to look at her. That mark means you are the last of her bloodline. The pact was broken when they killed her, so the creature has awakened. and it wants you because if it consumes you, it will be free forever. Outside, something scraped across the walls of the mill, long, dragging claws, slow and deliberate. The boards creaked under heavy footsteps. Seraphine's eyes widened. Elias, she found us! My blood froze. The scraping stopped. The world held its breath. And then a voice, my grandmother's voice, whispered through the walls, soft and broken. Let me in, child. Please. I'm cold. The wooden boards began to smoke, glowing red hot as if touched by flame. Seraphine grabbed my hand. Whatever you do, don't answer her. The mill burst into blinding orange light, and everything went white. The world exploded into fire. A blast of heat hit me like a punch to the chest, throwing me backward. I slammed onto the wooden floor of the mill, coughing violently as smoke poured through the cracks in the walls. Flames crawled across the boards outside, hissing like serpents. The air shimmered with heat waves. Every breath tasted like coal and blood. Seraphine pulled me to my feet, her hands gripping mine with desperate force. Her eyes glowed brighter now, no longer amber, but molten gold, flickering like fire itself. She's not here for you anymore, she whispered urgently. It's not just the witch outside. Something else is with her. As if in answer, the voice outside changed. My grandmother's broken, burning voice faded, and another emerged, low, thunderous, layered like many voices speaking as one. Give me the blood. The mill shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The river outside churned, water boiling like acid. Boards split, nails screeching loose. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. What is that? I shouted. Seraphine looked at me with raw terror. The creature your village made a deal with. The one she died to stop. The Infernum Rex, the king below. Your grandmother held it down for 13 years. But the seal is breaking. And once you're dead, it will rise. A cold wave of shock crashed through me. I can't fight something like that. Yes, you can, she said, gripping my shoulders. Because you carry her power. You were marked for a reason. I stared at her, shaking my head violently. No, I'm nothing. I'm not magic. I'm not strong. You survived the fire, Seraphine cut in sharply. No human child should have. You walked out of the pyre without a single burn except the mark. That wasn't luck. That was power. Her words punched the air from my lungs. Memories surged through me, fragmented flashes I had spent years burying. The flames surrounding me, the screaming villagers, my grandmother's arms breaking free from the ropes, her reaching for me, even as the fire devoured her body. Her voice burned and cracking. Live, Elias, live for me. And something else. A shadow behind the fire, towering, monstrous, with eyes like burning coals staring directly at me, reaching, wanting. My breath trembled. The pounding outside grew louder, like a giant heart beating beneath the ground. The river churned upward, water twisting into claw-shaped torrents that battered the walls. The shadows under the door warped and stretched upward, forming hands made of smoke and bone, clawing at the wood. Seraphine pulled a rusted iron dagger from her belt and pressed it into my hand. It felt heavy, pulsing with heat. This blade belonged to your grandmother, she said. She forged it with her own blood. It is the only thing strong enough to cut through the Infernum's hold. I looked at her, stunned. How do you know all this? Seraphine swallowed hard, pain flashing in her expression. Because I'm not just someone trying to help you. She lifted her sleeve. Carved into her arm was a symbol, jagged, ancient, burned into the flesh like mine, but twisted and darker. It pulsed faintly with red light. I was supposed to be the sacrifice before her, she whispered. Your grandmother saved me. She gave me time to run. I spent the last 13 years preparing, waiting for the day you would return. The day the pact broke. My chest tightened. So you're bound to her magic, she finished. Your grandmother trusted me when no one else would, and I swore I would save you, no matter what it cost. A deafening crack split the air as the front wall of the mill burst inward, shattered by a black, smoking hand the size of a car engine. Talons dragged deep gouges through the floor, glowing embers sputtering from the cuts. The air shook with a roar that rattled my bones. "Child of fire, come to me!" I covered my ears, collapsing to my knees under the weight of the voice. My vision fractured, breaking into shards of white and red. Blood dripped from my nose, hot and slick. Seraphine grabbed my face, forcing me to look at her. "Elias, listen to me. Your grandmother is not the enemy. The creature is twisting her voice. She's trapped between worlds. If you don't stop it now, her soul will burn forever." My heart crashed. "And how do I stop it?" She met my gaze, eyes shimmering with grief. "You must face the pyre, the original pyre. You must call her name and command the fire. It will obey you. You are her legacy." A booming crash shook the mill again, half the wall torn away in a burst of flame. Outside, a colossal shape rose above the burning trees. A body made of molten stone and bone, eyes like furnaces, mouth dripping smoke and black ash. The monster that once saved the village, now ready to consume it. Seraphine grabbed my hand, pulling me through a hole in the back wall. "We run," she whispered, "and then you burn it before it burns us all." The forest behind the mill erupted into flame as we ran, the towering silhouette of the infernal creature rising above the trees like a living volcano. And above its shoulders, suspended by chains of burning light, I saw her, my grandmother. Body charred black, hair trailing ash, eyes glowing white as a lightning. Her mouth moved, not screaming now, but pleading. "Elias, end this!" My legs nearly buckled. The pyre field lay ahead, glowing like a furnace at the center of the woods. Seraphine turned to me, voice raw and shaking. "This is where everything ends." And I understood. This is where everything began. I do not remember falling. Only the sound of screaming, the clash of flames around me, and the familiar voice roaring my name like a war cry. "Evelyn!" Lucian. Through the haze of smoke, I saw him fighting his way through the crowd. Blood-soaked, breathless, armed with a silver blade stolen from the hunters. His eyes burned with fury and grief. But I wasn't the only one they had come for. The townspeople were possessed, not by hatred alone, but by the curse of the pyre, an ancient spell that fed on fear and blood. The witch trials had never ended. They only learned to hide. The Witch Hunter Council stood at the edge of the fire pit, chanting the spell that bound my wrists, the flames tightening around me like chains of molten steel. The witch must burn. The witch must burn. The witch must burn. I felt my skin blistering, cracking. The fire chewed through muscle like hungry teeth. I screamed, once, twice, until my voice was nothing but a torn whisper. I knew what came next. I had died here before. 300 years ago, when the same crowd cheered while I burned at the stake, believing I was a servant of the devil. That day, Lucien, my lover, threw himself into the fire to die with me. They thought it ended there. But witches don't die clean. We come back, bound by a curse that forces us to relive our deaths until justice is served. I remembered everything now, every rebirth, every fire, every betrayal. Every time I woke screaming in another life, another body, another century. The curse had only one condition. I will burn again and again until the last drop of witch hunter blood is spilled. And tonight, here on the same cursed ground, it was finally time to break it. Lucian reached the pyre and cut the ropes binding my wrists, his hands shaking from adrenaline and terror. "Evelyn, listen to me," he said, cupping my face despite the flames. "If you stay in the fire, you break the curse, but you'll really die this time. Forever." I saw the agony behind his eyes. He remembered too. He remembered every one of our deaths. "Let me take your place," he begged. I shook my head. "No, this ends with me." The wind roared, swirling sparks upward in a golden storm. The flames shuddered, turning black, unnatural. hungry, powerful. The hunters shouted and charged. Lucian turned to protect me, but I grabbed his hand. Run! I won't leave you. You already did, I whispered. In every lifetime. This time, live. He froze, his soul breaking open. But then, someone else stepped through the flames. It was Rowan, the quiet new history teacher, who always claimed to believe the stories were superstition. Kind eyes, gentle voice. The one person who helped me research the witch trials. He wasn't human. His eyes glowed silver, and when he spoke, his voice shook the world. I am the keeper of the pyre. Every fire needs a sacrifice. Every rebirth demands a price. He smiled, cold and triumphant. And this time your lover will die instead. He lunged toward Lucien with a dagger made of bone. My executioner's blade. Time slowed. Lucien shoved me out of the fire just as Rowan's blade sank into his chest. Blood burst like a dark fountain, spraying in the firelight. Lucien fell to his knees, choking, eyes locked on mine. Break the curse, he gasped. Then he went still, and something inside me shattered. The fire rose like a living creature, curling around my body, climbing my spine, flooding my lungs. But it didn't hurt anymore. It obeyed. The pyre erupted, exploding outward like a storm of molten gold. Screams ripped through the clearing as hunters combusted into ash. Rowan spun toward me, horrified. You were never meant to awaken. I stepped off the burning wood, the flames lifting under my feet like wings. I am the fire, I said, and tonight I do not burn. I consume. The fire swallowed him whole. His scream echoed as his body disintegrated into black smoke, and the earth trembled beneath us. When it was over, silence fell. The hunters, their bloodline, the curse that bound witches to eternal fire, all were gone. And Lucien, my Lucien, lay dying, his head collapsing into my lap. I held him, my tears hissing as they struck the embers still clinging to my skin. Will we meet again? He whispered. No, I said, my voice breaking. This time you get your freedom. He smiled once, weak but true, and exhaled his last breath. The fire slowly faded. The night chilled. And I was alone. For the first time in 3 centuries, I felt the weight of mortality settle in my bones. I could leave. I could start over. I could live a normal life. But instead, I kissed Lucien's forehead, stepped into the dying circle of ash, and lifted my arms to the sky. So, the flames returned at my command, soft this time, warm, welcoming. A funeral pyre, my final one. I lay beside him, our hands intertwined. As the fire closed over us, I whispered, we are more than what they feared. We are the fire they could never kill. And then the world dissolved into light. The school rebuilt the courtyard where the fire took place. Students passed through every day, laughing, unaware of what happened. But at midnight, when the moon is full, the ashes glow. 2 silhouettes appear, hand in hand, and the wind whispers through the trees. She was the witch they tried to burn. But you cannot kill fire.